The first red flag was the way my future son-in-law kept circling back to the crumbling old barn at the far end of our Montana spread. Every single weekend he and Sarah drove up from Billings. Alex would find some excuse to wander out there after supper. He'd stand with hands shoved deep in his pockets, staring at the sagging red roof and the rusted tin walls like they were hiding something valuable. "Hey, Jim," he'd call back over his shoulder, voice light as if he were asking about the weather. "That barn, is it part of the original parcel, or did you pick it up separate? Just curious how the lines run." The first time, I figured he was a city boy trying to sound interested in farm life. The second, still harmless. But the third, fourth, fifth patterns like that stick in a man's head when he spent 40 years diagnosing engines that are about to blow. Something was off. Sarah brought Alex home for the first time last Easter, 6 months ago. 32, polished, a financial consultant with a firm downtown. He complimented my sister-in-law's rhubarb pie, asked thoughtful questions about crop rotation and winter feed, even helped stack firewood without being asked. On paper, perfect. My wife Ellen had been gone 2 years. Heart failure stole her quick and quiet, and the 150-acre ranch suddenly felt too big, too empty. Ellen and I bought it dirt cheap in the early 90s when nobody wanted scrubland this far from the interstate. Now, with subdivisions marching west from Billings, developers were sniffing around with 7-figure checks. But this place was Ellen's dream. The vegetable garden she planted still comes up every spring, wild tomatoes and zucchini crowding the rows. Sarah understood that. She'd grown up running barefoot through those same fields. After Ellen passed, Sarah started checking on me every weekend, worried I'd turn into one of those lonely old widowers who forgets to eat. When she met Alex at a networking mixer and things turned serious fast, I was genuinely relieved. She deserved happiness after the string of losers she'd dated before. The engagement hit 3 months in. Sarah called me from a rooftop bar in the city, voice bubbling. "Dad, he proposed. We're getting married right here on the ranch in early October. Mom would have loved it." I said all the fatherly things. Thrilled, proud, he seems like a good man. But that barn kept replaying in my mind. Alex threw himself into planning. He suggested clearing brush, expanding the ceremony space, even floated the idea of modernizing the grounds. One Saturday in August, while Sarah was inside picking flowers for centerpieces, he leaned on the porch rail and said, "You know, Jim, we could really open things up if we took down that old barn. Better views for photos, more parking. What do you think?" I kept my tone even. "That barn sits right on the western property line. It's been there since before we bought the place." Right, he said with a quick smile, just thinking long-term. For Sarah, that night, alone in the quiet house, I pulled the deed from the safe. 150 acres, purchased in 1992 for $50,000, appraised last year at $3.2 million and climbing. Add the royalties from 3 auto parts patents I licensed decades ago, plus careful investing, and the total picture was closer to $6 million. I'd never told Sarah the numbers. She knew we owned the land free and clear, knew I had a decent retirement. But I drove a 20-year-old pickup, wore faded Carhartts, and fixed my own fences. Ellen and I had watched too many families implode over money. Better to stay the quiet, unassuming neighbor. But Alex's questions weren't casual anymore. They had weight. The next morning I called my attorney, Karen. I need a discreet background on Sarah's fiancé, Alex Rivera, financial consultant in Billings. She sighed. "Jim, if you're worried, talk to your daughter." "Not yet, just a feeling." 3 days later she asked me to come in. Closed door, folder on the desk. Clean record, license, good reputation at the firm. But she slid another page across. 2 prior engagements, both the daughters of wealthy families. Both broken off shortly after he got deep into their financial discussions. No lawsuits. Families like that prefer quiet settlements. But the pattern is unmistakable. My hands felt cold. He's after Sarah's future inheritance. "Or yours," Karen said quietly. "If he thinks the ranch is the big prize and Sarah doesn't know the real value, he might be betting on that." I nodded slowly. I needed hard proof before I risked breaking my daughter's heart. Paranoia could destroy a relationship faster than any con man. But deep down, I already knew this wasn't paranoia. It was the same instinct that had saved me from blown engines and bad investments for 40 years. And I wasn't about to let it fail me now. That following Saturday, Alex rolled up in his gleaming black SUV, all smiles and rolled-up sleeves, ready to help with wedding setup. He parked right next to my beat-up old Ford, like he belonged there already. We walked the property together, Sarah inside arranging flowers, and he steered us straight toward the barn again. "Jim, seriously, that thing's an eyesore," he said, gesturing at the faded red structure silhouetted against the late afternoon sky. "Tear it down, level the ground, and you've got prime space for parking or even a guest cottage someday. Long-term value, you know?" I nodded slowly, keeping my face neutral. "It's on the boundary line. Been there forever." He laughed it off. "Boundaries can move, or we can work around them." Later, as the sun dipped low and painted the fields gold, he sat on the porch steps beside me, beer in hand, and shifted to the real topic. "Look, Jim, Sarah and I have been talking about the future. Finances, planning, all the adult stuff." He gave that easy consultant chuckle. "I can't help it. It's my job. Have you thought about estate planning? A trust could protect everything for Sarah. Save a fortune on taxes. I'd be happy to walk you through some options. No charge. Family, right?" My pulse stayed steady, but inside I felt ice. "I've got a will," I said. "Great start. But with land as valuable, a trust is smarter. And honestly, at your age, long-term care planning matters too. This farm's a handful for one person. What if something happens? A fall health issue? Who's going to step in?" He leaned in, voice low and earnest. I'd hate to see Sarah stuck managing it all alone. It was textbook. Plant the seed of doubt. Offer to help. Gain access. The same move he'd probably pulled on those other families. I forced a thoughtful nod. "You make good points. Let's sit down next week. You bring the paperwork. Explain it all." His eyes lit up like he'd just closed a deal. "Perfect. I'll prepare some sample docs. We can really optimize things for Sarah." The moment his taillights disappeared down the gravel drive, I called Karen. "He's escalating. Just push estate planning, and what if something happens to me? I need eyes on him." Karen was quiet a beat. "I'll connect you with Dana. Private investigator. She's the best, discreet, thorough." Dana moved fast. Within days, she had phone records, email trails, meeting logs. Then came the breakthrough call on a quiet Tuesday evening in late August. "Mr. Caldwell, I placed a small audio device during a routine dealership service on his SUV. It's a gray area maintenance tracker that happens to capture sound. Lawyers can fight it later if needed. But you need to hear this." I listened alone in the dim light of my workshop, tools scattered on the bench like forgotten defenses. Alex's voice, clear and smug. "I'm back at the ranch this weekend, playing the perfect future son-in-law. The old man's got no clue." Another voice, deeper, male. "You sure about the numbers? Checked the county records 3 times, Victor. 150 acres, bought in 92 for peanuts, with billing spreading west. We're looking at $3 million minimum. Probably $4 if we push development rights. And that's just the land. He's retired, no debt, lives like a pauper, old truck, cheap clothes. Patents from his mechanic days bring in royalties. Guy's probably sitting on $5 to $6 million easy. Sarah thinks he's just comfortable." Victor laughed. "So the plan, marry her in October. Spend the first year being Mr. Devoted. Help around the farm. Build trust. Get him to sign over power of attorney for convenience. Old guy alone out here? Accidents happen. A slip on the porch steps. A bad fall fixing the fence. Next thing you know, he's in assisted living. I'm managing the estate. Sarah inherits. We divorce quietly. I walk with half in the settlement. Clean. Dude, you're ice cold." "I'm practical. The last 2 were busts. Rebecca's dad sniffed it out quick. Emily's old man had everything locked in trusts. This one's different. Small town, no fancy lawyers, no suspicion. It's almost too easy. I clicked it off. My hands weren't shaking from fear. They were steady with cold fury. But fury wouldn't save Sarah. Strategy would. I met Karen and Dana the next morning at a coffee shop in town. Played the recording twice. Karen's face hardened. This is conspiracy to defraud. Possibly worse. We could go straight to the sheriff. Not yet, I said. Sarah's blind to it. She's so happy. If I drop this bomb now, she'll think I'm sabotaging her life. She needs to see it herself. Hear it with her own ears. And I want witnesses. 200 of them. Dana raised an eyebrow. During the wedding? Exactly. We expose him in front of everyone. No room for spin. We spent the next weeks in quiet preparation. Dana installed discreet cameras around the property. Karen drafted protective documents, updated trusts, asset locks. I kept playing the trusting father-in-law, even invited Alex into my workshop to review his estate plans. He arrived with a briefcase full of forms. These are solid, Jim. Power of attorney, so I can step in if needed. Updated with a trust. Sarah as primary beneficiary, me as trustee to keep things smooth. I pretended to read carefully. And this really helps with taxes? Big time. You could save tens of thousands. I smiled slowly. You've asked about that barn a lot. Why the fixation? Just forward thinking, he said smoothly. If Sarah ends up at the place, we might sell off sections. Keep the house. A few acres. No sense hanging on to land you don't use. I'd help her make the smart calls as her husband. Family looks out for family. I agreed. He left convinced he'd hooked me. I let him believe it. The week before the wedding, Sarah caught me staring out at the fields too long. Dad, you've been quiet. Everything okay? Just missing your mom. I told her, wishing she could see you this happy. She hugged me tight. She'd love Alex. I know it. I held her a second longer, hating to lie by omission, but she had to discover the truth on her own terms. Otherwise, she'd never fully trust her own instinct again. The wedding day dawned crisp and golden, the kind of perfect Montana October morning that makes you believe in miracles. Sunlight poured over the rolling fields, turning the aspen leaves to fire along the ridges. The mountains stood sharp and silent in the distance, like silent guardians. Ellen would have loved every second of it. Guests filled the white folding chairs on the lawn, murmuring with excitement. A simple floral arch, late-blooming wildflowers and greenery, stood where the aisle ended. Sarah had insisted on it, saying it felt like something her mom would have chosen. I walked her down the makeshift path. Her arm looped through mine. She wore Ellen's vintage veil, the lace soft against her shoulders, and her eyes sparkled under the clear sky. I love you, Dad, she whispered as we reached the front. Always, sweetheart. I murmured back, my throat tight. I took my seat in the first row, heart hammering beneath my calm exterior. The officiant began, words about love, commitment, and building a life together. Alex stood tall at the altar in his charcoal tux, smiling that practiced, confident smile. Everything looked right, until it wasn't. As the vows started and Alex opened his mouth for, I do, Sarah's hand slipped into her bouquet. She pulled out a small folded note and passed it to me without looking away from him. Her fingers trembled. I unfolded it quickly. 3 words in her careful handwriting. Dad. Help me. Time seemed to fracture. I looked up at her face, pale, eyes wide with terror, tears already gathering. She took a shaky breath and spoke, voice cutting through the quiet like a blade. Stop the ceremony. The crowd stirred, confused whispers rippling outward. Alex turned, brow furrowed. Sarah? What's? I heard you, she said, louder now, voice breaking but steadying. Last night, I went to your hotel room to surprise you, and I heard you talking to Victor. You said you'd make sure Dad had an accident after the wedding, that once you had power of attorney, it'd be easy. You called me stupid, said I'd never figure it out until you'd already taken everything. Gasps exploded through the guests. People stood. Phones came out. Alex's face flushed red. You're hysterical. Wedding nerves. You misheard. But I was already on my feet. Enough. The county sheriff, my old friend Tom, and his deputy, both seated quietly among the guests in plain clothes, moved faster than anyone expected. In seconds, Alex's arms were behind his back, cuffs clicking shut. Alex Rivera, Tom said evenly, you're being detained for questioning in connection with conspiracy to commit fraud and conspiracy to endanger an at-risk adult. Victor tried to bolt toward the parking area. He didn't make it far. Dana, the PI, stepped out from behind a row of cars and tackled him to the grass. She'd been waiting just in case. Chaos followed. Guests shouting, some crying, others demanding explanations. Alex yelled about false accusations, lawsuits, how this would ruin him. Sarah collapsed against me, sobbing into my shoulder. I held her tight while Kara moved to the crowd with a folder of evidence, recordings, background reports, everything we'd gathered. The police took statements. The caterers quietly began packing up the untouched feast. One by one, the guests drifted away, some hugging Sarah, others whispering in shock. When the last car left, Sarah and I sat on the porch steps in the fading light. She was still in her wedding dress, veil crooked, mascara streaked. I loosened my tie. We watched the sun sink behind the mountains, painting the sky in oranges and purples. I'm so sorry, Dad, she whispered. I should have told you sooner. I overheard them 2 days ago. I froze. I kept hoping I had misunderstood, that there was some explanation. I went through with all the planning, the rehearsal. I was going to marry him today. But standing there, about to say the words, I couldn't. I just couldn't. I put my arm around her. You gave me the note at the last second. Why, wait. Because I was terrified. What if I was wrong? What if I destroyed my own wedding over nothing? But then I looked at him and I knew I couldn't promise my life to someone I didn't trust. I squeezed her shoulder. I knew for months. I had him investigated. I had the recordings of him and Victor planning the whole thing. I was going to expose him today, even if you hadn't passed the note. Her head snapped up. You knew? Why didn't you tell me? Because you wouldn't have believed me right away. You have thought your overprotective dad was trying to control your life, that I didn't trust your judgment. You had to see it for yourself. Come to your own conclusion. I was just there to back you up when you did. She leaned into me, quiet for a long time. I feel so stupid. You're not stupid. You're someone who believes in people. That's rare and beautiful, even when they don't deserve it. Alex is a professional. He's done this before. You're not the first, and sadly, you probably won't be the last. Months later, the district attorney reviewed the mountain of evidence. Alex took a plea, 5 years probation, full restitution for our costs, permanent ban from financial advising. Victor got 2 years for his part. Sarah moved back to the ranch for a while, went to therapy, slowly pieced herself back together. She started dating again eventually. Careful now, wiser, a little sadder around the edges. As for me, I still drive the old truck, wear the same faded flannels, fix what needs fixing. But I made one change. I expanded Ellen's garden, added a stone bench with her name carved in it. Some evenings, Sarah and I sit there, watching the sunset bleed across the mountains. Dad, she asked one night, how rich are we really? I chuckled. The ranch is worth about $3 million now. Patents and investments bring it to around $6 million total. Your mom, and I kept it quiet on purpose. Money changes people. We wanted you to grow up normal, not chasing it, not afraid of losing it. She nodded slowly. Smart. It protected me. Always will. The sun dropped lower. A bird called across the meadow. Ellen's garden bloomed wild around us, just the way she liked it. Wealth isn't about what you show the world. It's about what it lets you protect, the people you love, the quiet moments, the chance to live without fear. And I'd spend every dollar I had to keep my daughter safe.